Go to Joe 303.
Tomorrow's Superstars Tuesday.
Is that the stable genius saying that?
30330.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. How many unsafe bridges you still have here in the state of Iowa? And
This is a guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
We choose truth over facts.
We'll see who's sleepy.
I'm not going nuts. 30330.
we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by the you know the thing.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
I got started out on HBCU. No mistake.
Wait. You're getting nervous, man.
I just did Chris. No, I just did Chuck.
30330.
Around the nation, DYT Nation. Welcome to the show. It's Wednesday. We got a lot of stories for you guys today. Oh boy. So kind of a big news day the last couple of days. We've got a lot of stuff about the CARES Act. We've got some news about the stimulus. We have Kellyanne Conway being Kellyanne Conway, so that's always fun. We've got Candace Owens. We're gonna make fun of some conservatives, and then of course we're gonna go and talk about some serious stuff about mainly how regular working people are screwed over. Yes, fun times. So we've got that. Before we get to it, though, I just want to ask you guys, please, to like and share the stream. Consider sending us super chats throughout the show. I like to read them. I like to read your comments as well. And, of course, that goes to help the show. So no reason not to do it as long as you're able to. And because I do appreciate it, but I also want to make sure you guys can take care of your family. So all that stuff. All right. Anyway, so we might as well get started. We have some non-prepared news, but I want to talk about that anyway. So earlier today, Elizabeth Warren has made an endorsement. You're not going to be shocked to find out that it's Joe Biden, because he's literally the only person left in the race. So why do I bring it up? Well, it's not really news, right? It is, but it isn't. Because, seriously, Elizabeth Warren, a little late. You're a little late. Okay. You took your time for certain. And now her endorsement means basically nothing. Almost less than nothing at this point. So why even bother? So that's what's kind of bothering me about this, right? So wait, you're going to wait to endorse, right? After about over a month. Since you dropped out, it feels like 12 years. Since March dragged on for 12 years, and now we're into April, where it's been about 6 years. That's what it feels like, right? So she dropped out forever ago, and then after her really, really bad showing in Super Tuesday, and then, her endorsement could have really helped pre-Super Tuesday. Especially right after Bloody Monday, right? Where you had Amy drop out, Amy Klobuchar, you had Pete Buttigieg drop out, you had pretty much everybody drop out and coalesced around Joe Biden, except for Elizabeth Warren, who ended up actually taking some delegates away from Bernie Sanders and preventing him from getting some much-needed wins in Super Tuesday states. So she decided, no, I'm going to stay in. I'm going to pull votes from Bernie. And then, oh, look, Joe Biden just racked up a whole bunch of wins, has some momentum. And now, he's doing great, but my campaign is essentially over. So what did you accomplish? Well, you accomplished, if your goal was to sabotage Bernie Sanders, then congratulations. That's exactly what you did by withholding your endorsement. And then she did the normal Elizabeth Warren thing. She's like, oh, I'll stay out of this, right? Until this is over. And then I will give a very meaningless endorsement to Joe Biden. Well, I mean, now that it's over, you can't criticize me for going, for Joe Biden. No. By not endorsing Bernie Sanders, you did help Joe Biden and you hurt Bernie Sanders. So either she has terrible political instincts, and that's what I gather from that. You either have terrible political instincts or you're not a progressive at all. So I know a couple of you reading some of the comments here. Maybe she wants to be VP. She's not going to be. No, I do not think Elizabeth Warren is going to be picked for VP. I would be very, very surprised because even her positions are too progressive for somebody like Joe Biden. No, my money is on Klobuchar or Whitmer, right? Somebody like that. Maybe Kamala Harris, but not Elizabeth Warren. They're never going to pick Elizabeth Warren, even though she will, and she has shown this over and over again, that she will concede and that she will go towards the establishment and bend over backwards to help the establishment if it helps her personally. But again, they'll take advantage of her. And that's what that is. And she'll take advantage of the situation to try to promote herself. And then, of course, the establishment will be like, well, thank you, Elizabeth Warren. Now get out of here. Your votes are still too progressive. It's amazing. And so what has Elizabeth Warren done? She's basically co-signed herself to oblivion. The left is really, really angry at her. The establishment wants basically nothing to do with her unless she can help the establishment. And so she's really got nowhere to go. I guess that's what happens when you have no core or you don't, stand up for your own beliefs. All right. Super chat question here from Actus Magos, by the way. Asks if there's any chance Bernie's playing reverse psychology to get the media off his back and overcome Biden. Look, I really don't think we're going to have any more primaries considering how we've got COVID-19, right? I think that Bernie Sanders was presented with a choice. You look, you either back it. And by the way, there was an article early on that talked about in depth why Bernie Sanders decided to drop out. And it had a lot to do with President Obama. He and Obama talked about 4 times. And then that's what convinced Bernie Sanders to back out of the race, according to that article. I believe it was in Politico. And so what was the content of the conversations? I don't necessarily know. Nobody really does. But apparently, according to people close to Bernie Sanders, it basically, Obama had convinced Bernie Sanders that, hey, look, this is as left as the party's going to get. And so you take it or leave it, right? Or else we're going to have more primaries, and then you're going to end up hurting the eventual nominee that's never going to be you anyway. And then we're going to blame you for the next 4 years for Donald Trump again. And I don't think that's something that Bernie Sanders really wanted to deal with. Getting blamed again and, not getting anything. And so Obama played a huge role. And I did a video on that yesterday. And I talked about that. And that sucks. It barely got any views. I think it's got 600 views total. Not good, right? And of course, there's a lot of salty centrists in that video as well. So if you could share that around progressive groups and things like that, I'd appreciate that. But yeah, Obama played a big role in that. As far as Elizabeth Warren is concerned, like I said, her endorsement essentially means nothing. She's probably not going to get anything. And so there it is. Why don't I take Bernie Sanders' own reasons for why he got out of the race? Because I never take anything at face value. It's politics. It's politics. And there's always back channel discussions. And there's always something that they're not going to just straight up tell us. Okay. Now, there's actually one more thing that's interesting going on. In Michigan, where I live, there are a bunch of angry right-wingers that have flooded the Capitol in their cars. They're doing what is it? What do they call themselves? Other than stupid. It's basically gridlock. That's what they're trying to do. They're creating gridlock in Lansing, and they've actually already prevented emergency services from getting through. So congratulations. They're like, oh, no, our freedoms. Governor Whitmer is impinging on our freedoms. Oh, your freedom to not get sick from coronavirus and die. Michigan is the third highest state for coronavirus infections, right? So we're doing pretty badly here in the state. And so now we have those stay-at-home orders, which has been extended. And there's a lot of restrictions in it, but the restrictions are unfortunately necessary. And so we got to do what we got to do if we're going to eventually come out the other side and actually do open up the economy, which I actually want to do, but I want to do it when it's safe to actually do so, which is what these right-wingers don't understand. But I'll probably do a story on that maybe tomorrow. All right. That said, let's jump into the stories that I have for today.
So we have every right to know, and every right to know because of what's happened here in this global pandemic. But there's another reason. Some of the scientists and doctors say that there could be other strains later on. This can come back in the fall in a limited way. This is COVID-19, not COVID-1, folks. And so you would think the people charged with the World Health Organization facts and figures would be on top of that.
That was White House counselor Kellyanne Conway appearing in one of her dumbest appearances as of yet, defending Donald Trump's decision to defund the World Health Organization. Now, the World Health Organization is trying to do their best to try to slow or stop the spread of COVID-19. Now, the World Health Organization, actually, according to Kelly Lee, the director of global health studies at Canada's Simon Fraser University, says they're doing exactly what we've designed it to do. No more, no less. It has kept us informed. It has mobilized scientists and coordinated data and research. It has collected the best evidence and tried to put forward very clear guidance about what should be done. The big question is whether we've given it enough authority and resources to act the way we want it to act. So now, the defunding of the World Health Organization actually comes as they put out guidelines, 6 guidelines, on whether or not you have sufficiently taken care of the coronavirus outbreak in your country and are able to start opening back up. The United States has not hit any of those measures. So fail. And so here's the right-wing reaction to that. Oh yeah? You want to fail us? Well, screw you. We're gonna take money away from you then. Idiots. We're surrounded by idiots. Ugh. All right. So now the Trump administration, as they said, they've got too much resources, right? Well, we're going to take our resources away since you're going to fail us. But here's the thing about that, right? So they're talking about, Kellyanne Conway talks about how, well, they need to know their figures. They should have been on top of that. They really dropped the ball here, the World Health Organization. No, that's just projection. While it is true that there are a certain number of countries that didn't take COVID-19 as seriously as they should have, look, there's even discussion about how China definitely did some shady things and making sure to kind of hide the extent of how bad their COVID infection really was. And not only that, but taking incredibly draconian measures in order to stop the spread of coronavirus. The United States is not exactly a paragon of how awesome we've done. I mean, really. Okay. Look, the poster child has become, or I'm sorry, the United States has become the poster child of what not to do when it comes to COVID-19. So now we currently have the highest number of known infections and deaths, not enough testing kits. In fact, the World Health Organization offered us test kits, and Trump said, they're not good enough. We're not going to take them. We're not going to take those test kits. We're doing amazing testing here. You should be taking test kits from us. But we don't have test kits. You should be taking it from us anyway. I mean, he's an idiot. He really is an idiot. Now, not only are we, not having enough test kits and not summarily not doing enough tests, we also have massive shortages of PPE. We've got a shortage of ventilators. We have, of course, the federal government. First, the federal government tells the states, "Oh, you can deal with your own PPE. You can get your own stuff, right?" And then when they do, the federal government will swoop in and take it and add it to the strategic stockpile. This is what the federal government under Trump, under the Republicans, are doing. And not only that, but you have the personal costs, right? You have doctors, you have nurses, you have our medical professionals in the front lines that are getting sick and dying from coronavirus. You also have people in the grocery stores that are keeping groceries stocked, food stocked. They're dying from coronavirus. You have a major, pork plants, pork processing plants that are shutting down because workers are testing positive for coronavirus. And so we're going to have a possible, and I'm not saying right now, because so far experts are saying, look, our food supply looks relatively stable for now, but we could run into some issues down the road, especially as this continues. So we need to figure out what to do about this, right? And all of that, a lot of this, we could have dealt with better. We could have mitigated this before it became this big of an issue had we been a lot smarter, but we don't have smart leadership. We have stupid leadership. We have dumb people running the country right now. And so, especially one really, really dumb person. And so that's one of the big problems. Oh, and of course, the other way that Trump's been trying to deal with this is, well, we're going to give you a one-time $1,200 check. And then we're going to give corporations a ton of money, which, by the way, one of the funds for corporations can be leveraged up to $4 trillion in loans, in loans and guarantees, right? And so that's the response. And then let's get you guys back to work. All while sending out Kellyanne Conway to do these ridiculous interviews. And by the way, does she not realize the 19 at the end of COVID-19 doesn't mean that it's the 19th coronavirus? I mean, I don't know. But see, here's the thing. That's not what it stands for. 2019, it's the 19 is because it was discovered in 2019, okay? Now, there are other strains of coronavirus, sure, and she is right that it could come back later in the fall, right? But my God, man, she either doesn't know what she's talking about, or she doesn't care. And I don't know what's worse at this point. I can't even tell what's worse. I mean, the pure ignorance or knowing the truth and actually going out and just lying. There's no she doesn't care at all about truth. It's really, I mean, what do you say to it? I just don't know anymore. Okay. Let's move on. We got more ridiculousness. Conservative commentator Candace Owens is getting roasted on social media for this ridiculous tweet. And there's also a video that I just found out, but I don't have it. Nonetheless, I will read you that tweet. She said, "Wow, just had a police officer called over to me and my husband at Whole Foods because we're not wearing masks. We come to this Whole Foods every day. Apparently, beginning yesterday, it is now legal to come in without a mask. Total deaths in DC from COVID, 69. WTF." Now, let me give you some context to that, right? In a lot of states, wearing a cloth mask outside is mandatory after the CDC updated guidelines and trying to prevent the spread of coronavirus. Now, the masks aren't to protect you from getting, right? They do not stop you from getting coronavirus. But what it does is it prevents people from spreading coronavirus because it is aerosol, right? It is spread through aerosol droplets. So you wear a mask, it better protects the people around you. And so in Washington, D.C., Washington, D.C. is one of those cities where the mayor, Muriel Bowser, started requiring anybody who's in the grocery store to wear a face mask. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Now, if you're somebody who follows politics, right, then you would probably, or you should probably know what your city is doing in this area, in this, instance, right? Because this is an issue. This is a major news issue. Coronavirus, it seems like just about every story we talk about and we see on the news is related to coronavirus. And so if you live in DC, you should probably know that, what the rules are when you go out in public, if you should have a mask or not. Well, apparently Candace does not know. I guess. I mean, now look, here's the fun part, okay? So now a lot of people wondered why somebody would, and this isn't even about the masks now, right? A lot of people were wondering after they see that tweet, like, hey, wait a minute. Why do you need to go to Whole Foods every day? I mean, even in pre-COVID days, that would be weird. I mean, look, I haven't been in the grocery store in a couple of weeks, right? I make sure to maintain social distancing. I want to make sure to limit the spread of the virus in my community, because I actually care about human beings. But apparently Candace really cannot stop going to Whole Foods, which led to some questions. One Twitter user asked, "Why are you going to the supermarket every day? Ever heard of a refrigerator?" Another one said, "Why do you need to go to Whole Foods every day? Do you not know how to make a grocery list?" I mean, but why do that? Why make a grocery list, which is easy and takes time? Then you can get all your shopping done for a week or a couple of weeks done at one time, so you don't have to keep going back to the store. Why do that when you could just go to the store every day and pick out enough for one meal at a time and continue to waste time every time you're hungry going to the store? Duh. Just duh. Right? So more questions. Another user asked, who the hell goes to Whole Foods every day in the middle of a pandemic without wearing a mask, doesn't notice everyone else wearing a mask? You would think that would be the first thing you would notice is everybody else wearing masks and thinking, oh my God, am I supposed to be wearing a mask? Yeah, you're supposed to be wearing a mask. Another user made a pretty good point, though, that said anyone who can afford Whole Foods every day in this economy can probably afford the material for a mask. It's not like people aren't sewing their own masks. They are. I know a lot of people sewing and selling masks. So you probably, get hooked up pretty quickly with one of those. I'm just saying. Now, another one says, woman who goes to Whole Foods every day wants to speak to the pandemic's manager. Oh, she's literally a Karen. That's what that is. Oh, wait, no, I'm told that is a sexist, misogynistic term now. Great. And, well, look, Candace Owens is I guess she has some company, right? Another user, Deshelle, says, I go to Whole Foods every day. Well, almost every day. But I also work there. Oh, okay. Makes sense. Look, that is actually the only permissible time to visit the grocery store every single day. But here's the thing, right? I don't actually believe that she goes there daily. No, what she is Candace Owens is part of the grifter right wing, right? So, like Ben Shapiro, she does outrage porn for Republicans, for conservatives, right? And part of that is the big government telling me to wear masks in the Whole Food now. How dare you? How dare you? This is America. Freedom. If I can't go in the produce section and breathe on a whole of the produce, what the hell did we fight the Revolutionary War for? Freedom. Freedom. Live like a capitalist every single day. Give me liberty or give me COVID-related death. No, she's a con artist. That's what that is. And she's not even really all that good at it. I mean, she's terrible at this. But I guess you don't have to be really good at being a con artist when you're on the right wing. Apparently, it's pretty easy to con people. That's why it's replete with scammers and grifters. Well, they even elected one as president, so there's that. All right. That's all for that. Let's move on. More serious stuff. This week, millions of Americans have started to see their one-time coronavirus relief checks being deposited into their accounts. Now, that's, of course, people with checking accounts. For the unbanked, well, if you're unbanked for whatever reason, can't afford fees, debts, or don't have access to banks in your area, you will likely be getting a check. But you're going to have to wait for it. Now, already it's been said that you're going to have to wait quite some time. In fact, these checks are going to start being mailed out regularly next month on May 4th. Now, you might actually have to wait a little bit longer now, though, because that report had come out a couple of weeks ago for one reason. Apparently, Donald Trump wants to put his name on these checks. According to the Washington Post, the Treasury Department has officially ordered that President Trump's name appear on the one-time $1,200 stimulus check set to be mailed to 70 million people. That is an unprecedented move that could delay delivery of the payments for days. But hey, you know what? It's not as if people have bills to pay. I mean, come on. Electric bill? What doesn't it cost like $10? How much could that be? I mean, look, that's not far from the truth because Stephen Mnuchin did say, oh no, Americans, they can last 10 months on $1,200. People, this is one person who obviously has no idea how much things actually cost. Now, that decision, by the way, from the Treasury Department means that when recipients open the $1,200 paper check, President Donald J. Trump will appear on the left side of the payment. Wonderful. Great. Awesome. Now, of course, you might want to think about why he wants to do that. He wants to take some credit, right? I gave you some money. Now vote for me. I gave you the stimulus. But wait a minute. It's actually not from Donald Trump. It's not his money. It's our money. All this is, and you read the bill about what this is basically an advance on a tax credit for 2020, right? So you get the money, and then when you file your 2020 taxes, it shows up as a credit. And that's it. Wow. But again, he's treating this as if it came out from his own fortune. I mean, it's an incredibly cynical garbage move. But again, what do you expect from Donald Trump? Now, according to the Treasury Department, the decision to have the paper checks bear Trump's name, as he's wanted them, has been in the works for weeks. The team working from home, the IRS team, is now racing to implement a programming change that 2 senior IRS officials said will probably lead to a delay in issuing the first batch of paper checks. They are scheduled to be sent Thursday to the Bureau of Fiscal Service for printing and issuing. But again, that does not mean that you're going to get your checks soon. I mentioned that earlier internal draft plan that came out this month, and it said that you could see some significant delays, in some cases up to 5 months of delay in receiving your $1,200 check. Now, and in a briefing, as I mentioned before as well, Treasury and IRS officials told House Democrats that stimulus checks will begin flowing steadily by May 4th. So obviously, the faster checks go out, the better, because people do need that money now. I mean, over 22 million people have filed for unemployment. Millions more are still struggling to get through the system. Especially if you look in places like Michigan, you look in places like Florida. Florida intentionally broke their unemployment system so that people would not file. Now they're getting slammed with hundreds of thousands of claims, and they are unable to process them all, or even near. And so there's this gigantic backlog of people who have been trying to file, and they've been unable to do so because the system just can't handle it. And so those people, that $1,200, is something that they need right now. They need it in their pockets. Now, look, Democrats, by the way, Democrats have a new plan for phase 4 of coronavirus relief. And it's actually pushed by Ro Khanna and a more moderate Democrat, which would give people $2,000 a month, I think, at least for the next 6 months. So that's awesome. That's a great plan. And again, it's got the backing of people like Barbara Lee. I forget the moderate Democrat for some reason, but he should definitely get credit for it. That's a good piece of legislation. Unfortunately, Republicans are in no hurry to pass anything else. And so in reality, they actually do want to start pushing people back to work. And so that's one of the big problems here. Now, obviously, this plan to delay these checks so that they could put Donald Trump's name on it got a lot of pushback. Senator Ron Wyden, he was the top Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, said this, quote, Donald Trump is further delaying cash payments to millions of Americans struggling to pay the rent and put food on the table to feed his ego. Only this president would try to make a pandemic and economic catastrophe all about him. Absolutely right. Representative Jim McGovern also said this, quote, imagine the kind of sad, egotistical person who would turn this awful crisis into an absurd campaign stunt by demanding their name go into the memo field of a check that was approved by Congress. Damn. That's probably the strongest statement I've seen on this. Sounds like something I'd say. By the way, it's, Tim Ryan. Thank you. Tim Ryan is the moderate Democrat who's also pushing for $2,000 a month. So I think that's great. The only thing is now you've got to get Donald Trump to sign it after the Republican Senate. And Mitch McConnell is not exactly in a hurry to give more relief to regular people. So now, former Labor Secretary Robert Reich also weighed in. He said this, quote, he wants Americans to be appreciative, even though it was Congress's idea. It's taxpayer money, and it's too little, too late. And I think the best statement here comes from Benjamin Dixon. He's a journalist, good friend of the show. He said this, quote, if you're wondering why it's taking so long for your $1,200 check to come, it's because the ruling elite needs you hungry and desperate enough to go back to work and reopen America in the middle of a plague. And he is absolutely correct. They do want people hungry. The Republicans do. They do want you desperate because Donald Trump, he's got a plan to open up the country by May 1st. That is 15 days from now. We will not be ready by May 1st. But again, they wanted to open it up by Easter. And these Republicans, you Republican senator, the Republican lieutenant governor of Texas is like, old people will be more than happy to die to get the economy back going. And then you've got Republicans in North Carolina right now that are pushing to reopen. You've got Republican protesters here in Michigan that are, gridlocking in Lansing right now, trying to get the government to reopen the economy. And so that's their plan. That's what they want to do. And they'll succeed if people get desperate enough. And that is not the way to deal with a worldwide pandemic. All right. That took a dark turn. Oh, but there's more. There's definitely more darkness coming. But we're going to take a break. Kind of stew in the darkness, right? If that makes any sense. And we'll come back. We've got more stories, including how the banks can now take your stimulus check and use it to pay off other debts. Then we've got more corporate giveaways in the CARES Act. And we've got hedge funders trying to get a little piece of that small business help action. So, man, there's just, it's a theme today. So stay right here. I'll read the super chats after we get back from the break, and stay right here. It's going to get angry in here around the nation.
Mike Pounds.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TOT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right, so first, before I get into the super chats, I just want to thank a couple of patrons here. So let's get to that real quick. Patreon.com/TYT Nation. That's so you can support the show. Let me just pull this up here. I want to thank Donna Hagerman and Christopher Panetta. So thank you for signing up and supporting independent progressive media. Can't do the show without you. So thank you. Memberships, let's see. I want to thank Kathy Harvey and Dan Powell. So thank you for signing up for that. You can become a channel member by hitting the join button below. And then super chats here. Mark Davis asks, how many of the gridlock protesters in Michigan condemned Black Lives Matter for blocking the streets? Also here in Kansas, the Trumpists all think that this is the 19th COVID. Oh my God. We are surrounded, unfortunately, by an island of stupid. I'm sorry, not an island of stupid, an ocean of stupid. An ocean. It's full of water. Big water. Ocean water. Yeah. Okay. I'm so sorry. Like, it sucks. The ignorance is just huge. And look, I even know people personally, right, who are Democrats, and they're like, we should get back to work. This is infringing on my freedom. And I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute here. People are sick and they're dying. The response to that is, well, people die every day. Okay, well, that's terrible. And so when you argue against that, they're like, hey, look, a lot of people are suffering, right? So we got to get people back to work because, they're not going to be able to pay their bills. Okay, I understand that, but that doesn't mean we should go back to work. We should actually have a safety net that can last for people to not have to go back to work right now until the virus stops spreading. And that's kind of the whole point of why we're doing this whole shutdown, right? And so there are people out there that don't get it and that buy into the right-wing narratives and that are trying to open this thing up when it's not yet time. Again, I would love to open back up, right? I'd love to be able to go out and do things again. That would be fantastic. But it's right now to protect each other. And that's the thing that I've talked about before. Long time ago, I talked about how America no longer acts like it's a community. In fact, we have been told that being a community is a bad thing, and that that's too collectivist. We all need to be more individual, because that's if you're not, that's communism, that's socialism, and that's bad, right? Acting like a community. No, we need to act like a community. We need to actually care about our fellow human beings that live in America, and we don't. And that is most obviously manifested in the people that are now protesting and saying, hey, we need to, open this thing back up. And I don't care if grandma dies. Sad day for her. I guess she shouldn't have been old or something like that. It's ridiculous. All right. Anyway, Platypi asks, Karen, a sexist term. Am I allowed to say it still? No, you are not. You are now a Russian bot and a troll. No, I'm kidding. She's fantastic. By the way, she does a YouTube channel, does really great work. What do you mean? That's the channel name. So check it out. Great friend of the show. Mark Davis says, I work in a pork plant. Social distancing is only enforced in the break room. By enforced, I mean they took chairs out. Management gets the distance by cutting meetings, working from home, etc. I am not surprised. Of course. And it doesn't surprise me. And I really hope you're able to stay safe, Mark, even in those conditions. But those are the places where COVID spreads. And we're seeing that. And then that's going to threaten our food supply. They don't care. They put profits over people, over human lives. Yeah, pro-life my butt. Exactly. Well, thank you, Christopher. I appreciate that. All right. Anyway, let's dive in. Let's talk about more bad news, as if there's not enough. If you're one of the millions of Americans impacted by coronavirus, maybe you've lost your job, maybe you've been laid off, which is essentially the same thing, and you need that $1,200, well, there's a chance that you will never get it, even if you're eligible. Why? Well, it's because President Trump's Treasury Department has just given the banks, your bank, the ability to take that money from you and give it to your creditors. Now, this was a great report in the American Prospect by David Dan. Now, he writes that the direct payments authorized under the CARES Act are authorized to be intercepted by your banking institution in order to pay outstanding debt instead of course, what it was intended for, which is helping people survive, get food, supplies, pay bills, pay rent during this pandemic. Now, Dan noted that, quote, legally speaking, the banks have the right to offset any deposits to pay off delinquent loans, overdraft fees, or any other charge. So now that includes bank overdraft fees, right? So if you've overdrawn it all because you haven't been getting income or anything like that, well, the bank can take your $1,200 and just say, that's ours now. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for banking with us. Wow. Now, he also writes that banks have more immediate access to coronavirus checks by virtue of having them deposited into accounts at their institutions. They're also in the front of the line for repayment of debts ahead of other private debt collectors. So again, if you have that overdraft, that goes to it first, and then whatever bills, and then maybe you'll have something left over. Maybe. Now, Dan also explains how this came to be, right? Now, Congress had explicitly exempted the one-time stimulus payment from collection under the CARES Act for federal debts. So, for example, if you're defaulting on your student loans, well, then you'd still be able to be eligible to get it. Or if you owe back taxes, you'd still be able to get it. Basically, all of that is exempt except for child support, which I guess makes sense, right? Now, Congress, Dan writes, did not extend this exemption to private debt collection, and notes that the payments are defined as tax credits and not federal benefits, which make them subject to garnishment, in which a debt collector that wins a judgment in court can seize anything of value held by the debtor. Now, you might think that, oh, I have my money in a credit union, so it'd be fine. No, credit unions can do it too. So, and if you're unbanked, well, then you've got to wait for a check that could take up to 5 months to get here. So that's not a good solution either. And so you might think, well, okay, look, this is obviously terrible, right? For the people who have an outstanding debt and are going through an incredible time, might even have that outstanding debt because of the coronavirus outbreak. Well, you would think that they would want to protect this, right? I mean, they need the stimulus. The whole point is to make sure that people can survive. So they had to have, now that they know that they would do something, right? They couldn't have just approved this. No, they did. They approved it as is, and they don't want to change it. In fact, Dan writes, quote, Congress gave the Treasury authority under Section 2201H of the CARES Act to write rules exempting the payments from private debt collection. But the Treasury Department, headed by former Goldman Sachs executive Steven Mnuchin, has thus far refused to exercise that authority despite pressure from Democratic members of Congress and state attorneys general. So, what a surprise! You have the guy who ran One West. Now, this is a company that screwed countless people out of their homes. I mean, is it any surprise that they would prioritize creditors over struggling people? No, of course not. After all, prosecutors in California, when looking into One West, had uncovered evidence suggested of widespread misconduct when they performed a 1-year investigation. That investigation found over 1,000 legal violations in the small subsection of One West loans they were able to examine. And of course, they are well known for just doing the most ridiculous amount of foreclosures. In fact, one of them, we talked about this in the show, One West foreclosed on a woman over 27 cents, over a shortfall of that much. So, of course, Steven Mnuchin, who ran One West, would allow his buddies in debt collection to take this one-time payment that is supposed to be a payment to help people survive and give it right to his buddies. Of course. And by the way, Kamala Harris was the attorney general at the time, and the investigators gave her all this information about One West. Like, look at what this company's doing. And she's like, nah, don't really care. So that's Kamala Harris for you. She refused to do prosecutions and had gotten donations from Stephen Mnuchin. So, yeah. Okay. Now, this has led to at least one state issuing protections for people, which is good. Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey recently issued guidance stating that the $1,200 payments are exempt from seizure or garnishment by creditors under Massachusetts law. The payments, she says, are supposed to help individuals and families put food on the table during the crisis, not enrich debt collectors. With this guidance, my office is putting the debt collection industry on notice that these payments are off limits. Well, that's one state. What about the others? What about the other states? Again, you've got millions of people that are depending on this money just to get it possibly snatched away from them to what? In some cases, pay overdraft fees from private banks or private loans or payday loans or other debts that people find themselves at this moment unable to pay. I mean, what this is gross. It's a callous thing to do, especially when the majority of the bill was already weighted towards corporations. I mean, this $1,200 direct payment was the very least that they could do. Now, the only other thing in the bill that really helps regular people, other than, of course, making sure that you can't evict renters during this crisis, where people, of course, have to stay home, is the actually pretty robust unemployment provisions that were fought for by Senator Bernie Sanders. So people that are getting that extra $600 a month in guaranteed unemployment benefits, you know how to thank. It was Bernie Sanders that fought for that. But this other little thing, even this is not protected at all. The little crumbs that the Trump administration, who, by the way, is Trump is literally signing this the checks with his own name, could get intercepted anyway. They don't even want them to have what little there is. It's gross. And it's going to have some devastating consequences, by the way. I mean, what do you think is going to happen when people are unable to feed their families? I'm not saying riots in the streets. I definitely don't want that. I want to avoid that. But in order to do so, well, we actually have to have support for working people. This administration doesn't want to do that. This administration wants to send people back to work as soon as possible, even if it means endangering people's lives, which it absolutely would. Other countries, by the way, are suspending mortgages, rents, credit card payments, all that stuff. And Canada, by the way, is giving people $2,000 a month until it's over. A lot of the payments have already went out. But the Trump administration, what they've done is they've done the opposite. Instead of taking care of the people, they made sure to take care of the corporations and the banks and the wealthy first. And then whatever crumbs are left can still get scooped up by the banks. At some point, I wonder how much the American people are going to take. How much more? I mean, look, I want to avoid riots, and I want to avoid all that bad stuff. And the way that I see doing it is the government actually taking the needs of the people into consideration. If they don't, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's not going to be good. And it appears that the Trump administration wants to keep going in that direction. Democrats have a much better plan. They have a plan that's more in line with Canada, giving people $2,000 a month. But it's all up to Republicans and Donald Trump to pass it. And I don't have a lot of faith that they will want to take this up. Okay. Let's see. There we go. On Tuesday, a congressional body found that nearly 82% of the benefits from a tax provision in the recent CARES Act, that's the coronavirus relief package, will go to millionaires and billionaires. So this was found by the Joint Committee on Taxation and was released by Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and Representative Lloyd Doggett. Now, this tax provision, which was part of the $2 trillion coronavirus relief aid or CARES Act, shows that Republicans have used this situation to funnel more money, even more money than we originally thought, to the wealthy. So now, this analysis, according to Common Dreams, who was quoting Whitehouse in a statement, shows that while Democrats fought for unemployment insurance and small business relief, the top priority of President Trump and his allies in Congress was another massive tax cut for the wealthy. Congress should repeal this rotten un-American giveaway and use the revenue to help workers battling through this crisis. Now, the tax provision in question, of course, basically temporarily suspends a limitation on how much owners of a business formed as pass-through entities can deduct against their non-business income, such as capital gains, to reduce their tax liability. The limitation was created as part of the 2017 Republican tax law in order to offset other tax cuts to firms in the legislation. Now, how many people benefit from this? About 3%. Yeah. As the Post reported, the new Joint Tax Committee analysis also included the impact of another tax change in the coronavirus relief legislation that allows firms to write off 100% rather than 80% of their losses, reversing another change in the 2017 tax law. So now you have 100%. Yeah, man, I'm just going to write off all of my losses. Coronavirus, what are you going to do? Now, that analysis, by the way, came after Whitehouse and Doggett sent a letter to Trump administration officials requesting information that could help explain the origins of the GOP provisions in the relief package. It also followed reporting that Trump and his son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner and real estate investors in the president's inner circle could benefit from the legislation's tax giveaways. I've talked about this before. How, yes, there are loopholes in which Donald Trump could personally benefit from this piece of legislation. And we won't know because there's very, very little oversight. Awesome. Now, Doggett said this, quote, "Someone wrongly seized on this health emergency to reward ultra-rich beneficiaries, likely including the Trump family, with a tax loophole not available to middle-class families. The net operating loss loophole is a loser that should be repealed." I agree with this. Now, there's the timing in this is interesting, right? Because this was released as the fourth phase of coronavirus relief legislation has stalled out in Congress. So now Democrats have proposed pushing forward for a $2,000 per month UBI until this crisis is over. It's pushed by Barbara Lee, Tim Ryan, Ro Khanna. And so you've got progressives and moderates that have seen the incredible need for relief going to the workers. Right now, all we have is a $1,200 check, which can be intercepted by banks to pay off other bills. And so that's not a lot of help to struggling families right now. But the Republicans said, oh, no. See, here's the thing. We already gave everything to the rich, and we gave you crumbs. The reason that we put the crumbs in there, the $1,200 payment and the actually pretty good unemployment benefits, is so that we could basically use it as a vehicle to pull off the greatest heist in American history. And you guys voted for it. And we got what we wanted. Our donors got what they wanted. Massive tax cuts that are in this, massive subsidies, giveaways, grants to the rich. And I mean, we're not interested in doing anything else. Sad day for you, man. We our donors are already happy. And so, yeah, we're not gonna get anything else from it. I don't know if there will be a fourth phase of coronavirus relief, especially since Republicans and Trump are trying to send us back to work immediately. They want to reopen the economy by May 1st. A lot of experts, including Dr. Fauci, are saying we're not going to be ready to be back May 1st. No, this thing could last into the summer. And there are even some reports saying that we should be still observing social distancing until 2022. We're not ready to go back to work. Now, here's the thing. Republicans, they point towards, look, there's some declining numbers in how many people are getting infected and dying. That's good. It means we're ready to go back to work. No, it means social distancing is working. It is having an effect in slowing infection rates. But that's only in places where people have been taking it seriously. It's going to take more time for it to have an effect. It has a lag effect because you have an incubation period of the virus of about 7 to 14 days. And so, and within that time, when they're asymptomatic, they can still spread the virus. That's why social distancing is important. And that's why we're not going to see the fruits of this until later. And we're already now starting to see a little bit of a dip thanks to social distancing measures put in place a couple of weeks ago. If you lift it, it comes back. And so, yes, we have to continue doing what we're doing. And we can't go back to normal. I mean, we can go back to work eventually, yes, and I look forward to that. I look forward to restarting, the economy. Just one note, and there's something that bothers me about the framing of this conversation as well by Republicans. They said, well, you're going to kill the economy. No, you can't kill the economy. No, you can slow it, obviously, which is what we've done. But there will always be a need for commerce. There will always be need for an economy. People will always need to trade goods and services for a currency. You can't kill an economy. But you can't have an economy if you kill all the people. Okay, so that's the problem. And so we need to focus on not killing all the people so that one day, hopefully soon, as soon as medically able, that we get back to doing an economy again. And so we need to, and by the way, since it's going to take a long time, maybe we should start thinking about retooling the economy to better fit the current circumstances so that a lot of us can, continue to work from home, or people that worked from home before could, or couldn't work from home before can start to work from home. Maybe, maybe this should be the start of a UBI permanently and look into more automation in the jobs that we can automate and replace it with a UBI. I'm not against that. I'm just concerned with what way we implement such a UBI system. But that's a much longer conversation. The fact is that we're barely in this. It's only been a month since Donald Trump actually confirmed that this is an actual emergency. And already you've got the donor class, the investor class, and the wealthy getting ready to sacrifice this for more corporate greed. After, by the way, orchestrating in this bill one of the most incredible heists in American history. Their lack of humanity and their greed is just absolutely endless. Okay. That's all I got time for, guys. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream. Thank you for the super chats. Thank Thank you for watching, of course. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell twice if you want to get notifications. Please share the videos that get put up every day. And thank you. All right, guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you guys later.
Please clap.
Mike Pounds.
Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.